Sex with Swoozy, Swoozy. Sex, Swoozy. Sex with Swoozy, Swoozy. Sex, Swoozy. Sex with Swoozy, Swoozy. Sex, Swoozy. Sex with Swoozy.
Welcome to this episode of Sex with Swoozy. You guys had a lot of questions about butt sex, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Adding anal play into your sex life can be a lot of fun for both partners. Despite how it's portrayed in pornography, it can be a really intimate and vulnerable act. One partner is giving a part of themselves that is often seen as shameful or dirty, and the other partner is accepting that person as like their whole entire selves. And it can be a really beautiful way to build trust and intimacy between people. Okay, so let's start with some quick tips. The first is to use a lot of lube. Like a lot of lube. You need a lot of lube, and we're going to talk about lube later in the video. The second is that if you're in a partnership that involves vaginas, do not put anything that has been in a butt into a vagina without first very well cleaning it. You're just asking for vaginal infections. Also, if you're really scared or not willing to participate in anal penetration, that's okay. There's other ways to have fun with your butt, and we'll talk about that too. And then lastly, don't worry about poop. There's very little poop involved in any type of anal play. Unless your body is like actually ready to have a bowel movement, there's actually no poop in your rectum. It's farther up in the GI tract. And if you feel a little nervous about it, try and have a poop. See if you do, and then you can kind of be rid of that. Otherwise, a little bit of residue is probably all you're going to deal with. Before we start talking about penetration, let's talk about analingus. It's also known as rimming or tossing salad. Analingus is the act of using your mouth on the anus to kind of stimulate that area. Similar to cunnilingus, you can use all your mouth parts. You can lick, you can bite, you can suck and kiss. Anything to kind of help stimulate your partner, and it feels really great. One thing to keep in mind is that your butt is the end of your GI tract, and your GI tract is full of bacteria. So before you practice any kind of analingus, you need to make sure that your butt is very clean, washed with soap and water. Personally, I like to help my partner with that. I think it's kind of a sweet and loving way to kind of get ready to have some fun. If putting your mouth directly on someone else's butt is not something that sounds super appealing to you, you can always use a dental dam or even just a piece of plastic wrap. This is especially important if you don't know somebody's sexual or STD history. Lots of STDs can actually be passed through analingus. Hep B, HPV, herpes, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia can all be passed through mouth-to-butt contact. So if you don't know what's going on with your partner, just be a little extra safe and put a barrier there. Now let's talk a little bit about lube. Lube is the most important thing about anal sex. Like, you just need a lot of lube. It's important to think about what kind of lube you want to buy. There are anal lubes. Anal lubes tend to be quite a bit thicker than other lubes. They're more of like a gel consistency rather than kind of like a thin liquid. But you never want to use those lubes in the vagina. The things that make them thick, the glycerin and parabens, can actually be really irritating to the vagina, so you don't want to use the same lube for anal sex and vaginal sex if you're buying a specific anal lube. The other thing to look out for is anal lubes that have benzocaine in it. Benzocaine is a topical anesthetic, and it's meant to ease the discomfort of anal sex, which is great in theory, except that pain is there for a reason. If you're feeling pain during anal sex, it's because you really need to slow down or pull back a little bit, and you want to be able to feel that, otherwise you can risk tearing your anus. So before you choose a lube, you should think about the different types of lube and what you're using them for. There are three main types of lube: water-based lube, silicone-based lube, and oils, and they all have pros and cons. Water-based lube is the most versatile. It can be used with condoms and any toys. It's also really easy for cleanup. It doesn't stain your sheets or your clothes. However, it dries out very quickly. You have to reapply it pretty often. It absorbs into your skin and also evaporates, so sometimes it's not the best for anal sex. So if you're not using condoms and not using toys, you might want to consider using a different type of lube. If you are using condoms and you are using toys, water-based lube is probably your best option. The second type of lube is silicone-based lubes, and this is actually one of the better types of lube to use for anal sex. It's very slick and it lasts a long time. It's a lot more expensive than water-based lubes, but you use a lot less of it and you don't have to keep reapplying it. It's also safe to use with condoms and great for water sex. If you are having any kind of adventures in the water. The only downside to silicone-based lubes is that you cannot use it with silicone-based toys. The silicone on silicone will actually make your toys melt. The last type of lube is oil-based lubes. These are things like olive oil and coconut oil. They can be a really great natural alternative for people. The only thing is that they erode condoms, so they can't be used if you need to practice safe sex. You guys, it's time for anal penetration.
It's time for anal penetration.
I'm so excited. The first rule of anal penetration, of course, is use lots of lube. When in doubt, use more lube. The second rule is to go slowly. The anus is a muscle, and it can be stretched out to very comfortably fit dildos and penises, but you've got to get there really slowly. It helps to start with smaller objects like fingers or small butt plugs. A good rule of thumb for me is 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger, dick. And rule number 3 is that if it hurts, stop. Anal sex can be really exciting, and sometimes when you get excited about things, you tend to really go for it. But with anal sex, you really have to take it slow, otherwise it can be very painful. And like I said before, you kind of can be at risk for tearing the anus. So the person doing the penetrating really has to listen and take cues from the person being penetrated. They're really the ones running the show. And one quick tip for the person who is the one being penetrated, sometimes if you bear down, it kind of helps relax the muscles and ease insertion. Alright, rule number 4, don't put anything in your butt that does not have a base on it. Your rectum will just suck it right in. And if you do get something caught in your butt, don't ever try and push it out or pull it out. You have to go to the ER. You could possibly need surgical intervention, and if you try and push or pull it out on your own, you risk rupturing your bowel. Once the penis or dildo is in, have fun. It helps to start slowly, but once the anus is fully relaxed, it can take some pretty vigorous sex. And I know that a lot of what you see in porn is having anal sex doing doggy style. Don't get caught up in that. Try lots of different positions and see what you like. I had one person ask me about pegging and what I thought of men who enjoy it versus men who do it begrudgingly. If you don't know, pegging is a pretty specific term for a woman wearing a strap-on and anally penetrating a man. It's actually specific to that gender combination. But if you are participating in a sex act, it should only be because you're enjoying it. Hopefully you're not doing anything because anybody's forcing you or you're doing it begrudgingly. Pegging is often portrayed as part of BDSM sex, and it's often shown as a woman being very dominant over a man, but that's not how it has to be. It can be incorporated into anybody's sex life. If it's something that you're interested in, then you should try it. And just kind of a side note is that if you, as a man, enjoy being penetrated anally, it doesn't say anything about your sexuality. Men of all sexual orientations can enjoy that. If you guys are interested in pegging, I can actually do an entire show just on that subject. Otherwise, I hope you found this helpful, and I hope that you guys are having fun. Thanks.
Sex with Swoozy.